What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over your favorite fighter, or maybe not y'all favorite fighter, but my favorite fighter, the Cloudstrider in Crystal of Atlan. This will be an extensive guide for the Cloudstrider, going over a majority of her skills, what gear sets she likes to run, and what stats she likes to use as well to help you with gearing and playing your own Cloudstrider as well. Hopefully this video can help you guys in understanding more about the Cloudstrider and learning more about how she functions. First, let's talk about the pros and cons of the Cloudstrider and talk about some of the things that you have to take into account when playing her. First, the Cloudstrider has very good utility, being able to provide herself a damage buff, or she can use that same skill to provide her team a damage transfer ratio buff, similar to something like Doctor Strange in Marvel Rivals. She's very versatile in that she can attack in various ranges. She can play close range or the mid range very well. She has very good burst damage thanks to the damage buff that she actually does provide herself and to the team. And she is very good at grouping enemies thanks to some of the skills that she actually does have as well that hit very wide, as well as have very good suction. The main cons for the Cloudstrider, in my opinion, is that you must always keep track of what skills you are using to make sure that you are not overusing skills in your passive, and that you must always swap stances to be sure that you can refresh your passive to get the damage buff as well. Alongside these pros and cons, some other things you also want to keep in account when playing Cloudstrider is that some of her skills will require you to position yourself correctly to take full advantage of the damage, and her initial leveling experience can feel a little lackluster, but once you hit level 45, that is alleviated completely. Her main mechanic is locked behind her first skill that you actually unlock while changing into the Cloudstrider, Summon Energy. This skill will allow you to enter the Dharma Nature form and gain a damage buff. After casting any skill while Dharma Nature is active, you can press the skill button again to switch Dharma Nature forms and cast their respective skills. This skill is a buff skill more than it is a DPS skill. You're not locked behind any cooldown while using this skill as well, so as long as you're using your other skills in your hotbar, this skill will come off of cooldown, allowing you to swap your stance. The damage buff that you will get from Summon Energy at level 15 is 16.2%, and you're even able to break that cap if you get some Insignias and gear that give you +1 to your active skills. This skill is a non-negotiable. You must use this skill, as this will give you your damage buff, as well as give you access to the damage buff inside your level 45 passive. The passive tied to Summon Energy is Purity of Heart, and that is going to reduce the key consumption of all your skills by 20%. This passive will make it 10 times easier to actually stay in Dharma Nature form to take advantage of your damage buff. Last but not least, let's take a look at the level 45 passive, Circulating Ki. This passive will allow you to use basic attack or dodges to stop ki consumption, as well as if you are doing a skill combo, so using skills back to back while rotating throughout your stances. If you use a basic attack or a dodge, you will refund the ki consumption as well as overfill the ki gauge, so you'll get even more ki back than you actually used. And you'll also gain access to 20% skill damage after switching stances for the next 2 skills that you actually use. In this level 45 passive, Circulating Ki, you are able to stay in the Dharma Nature form infinitely as long as you are managing your resources correctly and doing basic attack or dodge after your skill combos. And also, as you can tell by her main mechanic and passive, you never want to be outside of the Dharma Nature form, and you want to keep your ki gauge up as much as possible to ensure that you never fall out of your Dharma Nature form as well and lose access to your damage. Now that you understand Cloudstrider's main mechanic and level 45 passive, let's go over some of the key skills that Cloudstrider uses to ensure that she's able to do the burst damage that she provides. The first skill we'll be taking a look at is Mind Soul Divided. Mind Soul Divided will give you 3 different effects depending on which state you're actually in. If you're outside of the Dharma Nature form, you will be able to knock the soul out of a single enemy, isolating their soul from their body, allowing you to transfer 6% of the damage you do to their soul to the main body. Inside of the Tiger form, you will gain access to an AoE Stomp that deals massive damage to surrounding enemies, as well as giving you a 10% to 16% damage buff depending on how many enemies are hit, lasting for 20 seconds. Inside of the Crane form, instead of it being a 6% damage transfer ratio, it will be a 10% damage transfer ratio for 10 seconds, and you can use this to allow your team to do extra damage to the boss as they hit the soul and the boss themselves. This skill is extremely essential to Cloudstrider's kit as it holds majority of her utility, and I think that every Cloudstrider should be using this skill for the most part as well. The next skill we'll be taking a look at is Blooming Palm. Blooming Palm is a low cooldown skill for the Cloudstrider. But make no mistake, this skill does extremely good damage for being a 10-second cooldown skill, especially inside of the Tiger form. The Tiger form, it does split into 3 different projectiles, but if you're able to get into the opponent's face and hit all 3 projectiles at one target, this skill will do significant damage, about a 3,825% multiplier. In the Crane form, she will send forward 1 projectile that will do a little bit less damage than the Tiger form, but nonetheless will still do relatively good damage. Because it is 1 projectile that is carrying all the damage and not split into 3, this is much better for hitting mobs that are in a straight line and just mobbing in general. You may also find that the Crane form of this skill is a bit easier to juggle with as well. The last skill I want to take a look at for the Cloudstrider before going into my personal skill build is going to be Body Formless. This skill inside of the Tiger form will inflict external injuries on enemies for 10 seconds. Any extra damage done to the enemy will inflict bleeding for 5 seconds while external injuries is on the enemy, and anytime you hit the enemy again, you will be refreshing the bleeding stack as well. This skill inside of the Crane form just does regular damage, as you will do a quick dash forward with consecutive kicks. So you definitely want to be using this skill inside of the Tiger form to take advantage of the extra damage that you'll unlock from inflicting enemies with bleeding. Although I can't lie, it definitely has been many a time where I do use this skill inside of the Crane form in skill combos just for the style factor. Next, we will be going over my skill build for the Cloudstrider. These are the skills that I like to use for the Cloudstrider. I find that they work very well together and flow very well together when using them in rotation. The first skill I am using in slot 1 is Summon Energy. Summon Energy is the skill that you again use to switch between Dominator forms. Outside of that, behind Summoning Energy, I am using Blooming Palm. This is to allow me to switch stances and then instantly have access to Blooming Palm to do damage if I would like to, or I can use another skill and then be able to swap stances again to then get the other version of Blooming Palm depending on the situation. In slot 2, I am using Heavenly Kick. This is one of my grouping skills when playing in PvE. I use this for mobbing, being able to group mobs, and then go straight into Body Formless inside of the Tiger or the Crane form, depending on the situation. Not really the situation, but how I'm feeling if I'm not fighting a boss. Mostly if I'm fighting a boss, I'm going to use the Tiger form to get the bleeding debuff. In the third slot, I am using Leopard Pounce. Leopard Pounce is the gap closer that I chose to use for the Cloudstrider because it covers a very good distance, as well as when landing a hit, you can reduce the cooldown of the skill by 2 seconds, allowing you to use this skill very often, and you can also use it to proc Summon Energy so that you're able to switch stances very often as well. Behind Leopard Pounce, I have Key Helix. Behind Leopard Pounce, I have Key Helix. Key Helix is going to be a low cooldown filler skill that you will actually be able to use alongside Blooming Palm to do really good damage while you're waiting for your bigger burst damage options to come online. This skill has very good utility in my opinion. While waiting for your other burst damage options, you can use it inside of the Tiger form to do very massive damage. Or when having your other burst options online, you can use it inside of the Crane form to either group enemies together or to also be able to stack skills on top of one another. Finally, inside slot 4, first I have Mind Soul Divided, allowing me to either damage boost myself or give my team the damage transfer ratio, as well as myself the damage transfer ratio when hitting the after image. And then inside the second slot, I have Mind Desolation. This is a very high damaging skill with a pretty long cooldown of 47 seconds. This skill inside of the Crane form can be used to overlap with other skills. So you can use something like Mind Desolation inside the Crane form and then go into Body Formless to overlap the damage. Or you can also use it inside of the Tiger form to slam down a Spirit Bomb and do massive damage inside of that area, also pulling enemies inside of the explosion. There is also a way to make the Spirit Bomb version work the same way as the Crane version, using some animation canceling, but we will go over that in the rotation part of the video. As for the 2 ultimates I choose to use, I am using the 2 Awakening ultimates that you get while leveling, True Duality and then Firefly's Light. True Duality inside of the first slot and then Firefly's Light in the second, mostly because this True Duality will group enemies together, and then you have Firefly's Light to slam an AoE explosion down onto them. For the most part, I try to make my skill build a mix of low cooldown and high cooldown skills, high cooldown being the 2 ultimates as well as my slot 4s, and then the lower cooldowns being the rest of my skills that I'm able to be in between while waiting for these to come back online. As for what levels I have in these skills, for Leopard's Pounce, I have Leopard's Pounce at level 1. It does not need to be leveled up too much as it is mainly a gap closer, and for the most part I even jump cancel this skill just to get to the next skill, Keep Healing. I also have Stride of Wind. For that times that I don't jump cancel it, I'm able to go ahead and reduce the cooldown of this skill. Heavenly Kick I have at level 14, as this is where my excess skill points had went after I maxed out the rest of my skills. I also have Charge Basic Attack because I want to be able to do my upward slash and downward smash. True Meaning, of course, I have maxed out, as this gives you a free 9.6% crit damage. I have Summon Energy at level 15, as this is what gives you your damage buff, as well as the passive Purity of Heart maxed out, as this is what reduces the ki consumption. Blooming Palm is maxed out at level 14, and then as well as Floral Spirit being maxed out to restore the ki once after using Blooming Palm. Ki Helix I have at level 12, maxed out as far as I was able to go. Just because this is my filler damage skill, I wanted to do as much damage as possible. I also have Siphon to give it a pulling effect, making it much better at grouping. Body Formless is level 11 as far as I was able to go, as this will do a lot of damage inside of the Tiger form, as well as inflict the bleeding debuff. For the ultimate, True Firefly's Light, I have this maxed out as far as I was able to go, as well as Mind Soul Divided. I also grabbed the passive for Mind Soul Divided Meditation, which will increase the duration of soul and damage bonus effects by 20%, so you will get an extra 20% damage bonus to the already 10% here. So it's not necessarily adding the 20% to the 10%, it's multiplicative. So what happens is you'll do a base 12% to then 18% in Tiger form, and then grab a 12% damage ratio transfer inside of the Crane form. Mind Desolation, I have maxed out as far as I was able to go as well. And then again for True Duality, the second ultimate, maxed out as far as I was able to go as well. Now here are two example opening rotations that I have thought of for the Cloudstrider that I personally use myself. These are again just example rotations. For this rotation here, we'll start off with skill 1, go into skill 3. After skill 3, we'll use skill 4, which is our damage buff. After our damage buff, we'll swap stances and then use skill 2. After using skill 2, we will use skill 3 to use Ki Helix. Then we'll go back into swapping a stance with skill 1 and then into Body Formless on skill 2 to apply the external injury and bleeding debuff. After doing that, we will use skill 4 to do Mind Desolation and drop down on the ground with the Spirit Bomb. We will jump after using Mind Desolation to cancel the animation and still be able to do skills, and then use skill 1 to use our stance switch as well as Blooming Palm. Then we'll stance switch again and then use both of our ultimates. In this rotation fully takes advantage of both of the passives with Summon Energy as well as Circulating Ki. Now, this is not like the end-all be-all rotation. You can find a lot of different rotations with Cloudstrider. She's a very free-flowing class, but this is just one of my favorite rotations, as it looks very, very flashy, and you're just in the air, you're on the ground. It's very fun to actually do as well. But because this rotation uses the Tiger form of Mind Soul Divided, it's more for solo play. Here is an opening rotation you can use for group play. For this rotation, again, we start off with skill 1 to go into our Dharma Nature state, go into skill 3 as our gap closer, and then swap stances with skill 1 and then use skill 4 to use our Crane form of Mind Soul Divided. After that, we will use skill 1 again to swap stances, use skill 2, and then use skill 2 again to go into Body Formless. After doing Body Formless, we will go ahead and swap stances again and then use skill 3 to use Ki Helix. After using Ki Helix, we will swap stances again and then use Mind Desolation. After using Mind Desolation, we will go ahead and jump again to animation cancel, use skill 1 so that we're able to use Blooming Palm. After using Blooming Palm, we will then go ahead and use our ultimate, swap stances again to go back into Tiger form. and then use our second ultimate. Again, this is an opener that takes full advantage of her circulating ki buff, allowing you to get full 20% skill damage on all of these skills being comboed together, and then you're able to basic attack or dodge at the end to refill your ki gauge. This way you're not losing any ki gauge as well. After doing your burst rotation, a lot of your burst skills will be on cooldown, mainly your skill 4s, as well as your 2 ultimates. After these skills have been used, you will then use the rest of your 6 skills to just cycle between them and do the most damage. Every time body formless is up, you want to use body formless before you use any other skill to be doing constant bleeding damage as you are attacking the enemy, and this will be able to keep your DPS up relatively high while you're waiting for your burst to come back online to do another chunk of big burst damage. Also, don't forget to take advantage of resonance, as resonance will give you an extra 20% damage as well, just for using it while you have your resonance bars underneath your HP bar full. If you have 2 bars underneath your HP bar full, you will be able to actually pop resonance, so make sure you take advantage of that damage buff as well. Next, I want to take a look at the gear you want to be using on the Cloudstrider, as well as the stats you want to focus when playing her. When it comes to gearing, in the early game, we'll only really have access to crafting one piece of set relatively easily, and that being the Void Phantom set. You can make this set level epic relatively easily by just playing the game. The Void Phantom set is a relatively decent set for early game. It's not necessarily the best set, but it is the easiest set that is to craft, and also the cheapest epic set to craft as well. Once you gain access to the Abyssal Purgatory dungeon, you will be able to farm epic drops every day with your green stamina, and the set that you'll want to go for the Cloudstrider is going to be the Dragon Mantra set. The Dragon Mantra set is going to be the class-specific set for the Cloudstrider. It features buffs like +1s to all her skills, as well as giving her crit damage depending on her ki gauge and how high her ki gauge actually is. It is a very well-rounded set for the Cloudstrider, and you'll definitely see a huge increase in your overall damage once you actually are able to farm and equip this set, either by doing the Abyssal Purgatory dungeon or by farming up and saving up shards. Now, this Dragon Mantra set, in my opinion, you would want to use instead of even using the Valiant Guard set that you first craft from the raid, as that set does not necessarily have a set bonus, just more flat stats and flat actual passives on the actual pieces of gear themselves. But once you are actually ready to craft your full raid set, you want to go for the Mighty Chariot set. The Mighty Chariot set is more tailored to DPS classes, giving majority crit damage and crit rate buffs, alongside the crit rate and crit damage buff that you get through the set effect. Each actual individual piece of the raid set has their own passive attached to them that you're able to take advantage of after doing certain things while fighting, like landing consecutive basic attacks or using pet skills. When it comes to accessories for the Cloudstrider, you have a couple of options. The Void Phantom set, of course, is going to be the easiest to craft out of all of them, and is a good starting baseline. If you get lucky in the Abyssal Purgatory, you can look at sets like Nightshroud Serpent that will give you a damage buff as you dodge, or you can go ahead and go for the Uday's Will set, which will apply Scorch when you attack and give you extra damage to debuffed enemies as well as damage to scorched enemies. She can apply her own debuffs with the external injury, so even if this set is not specifically for her, she can still take advantage of it pretty well. Hands down, the best accessory set for the Cloudstrider is going to be coming from the Ideal Form set that goes into the Dharma Body set. Once you go ahead and upgrade your Ideal Form accessories to Dharma Body accessories, you'll gain access to the 5-piece effect. This full set effect will give you things like ki recovery, damage when your ki bar is full, cooldown rate when you have less ki, so when you have less ki you'll get faster cooldowns, and more bonuses as well, specifically for the Cloudstrider. This is the Cloudstrider's specific accessory set up for the class, so this will give you overall the biggest boost in power. Currently, we do not have the upgraded version of the Talisman and the Seal, however, for the Dharma Body set. We will get that in a later patch, I'm assuming. So at the moment, you can only get the 3-piece set effect, but it will still be the best for the class in my opinion. Next, let's look at circuits and stats that you want to look at for the Cloudstrider when gearing and building her. The Cloudstrider is going to be a magical class. She scales off of intelligence and spirit. Intelligence giving you magical attack and spirit giving you crit. Being that these are the 2 primary attributes that she will scale off of, building these 2 will be very, very beneficial to your Cloudstrider. Other stats that you're definitely going to want to look out for are going to be things like magical crit, crit damage, cooldown rate, and even things like skill damage bonus and normal damage bonus. You definitely want to look out for these stats when building things like your Insignias as well as your circuits. Taking a look at my Cloudstrider's Insignias, for example, you can see that I'm using a mix of blue, purple, and pink Insignias. I have some that give me damage during resonance, for example, and then agility and spirit. Some more agility and spirit, some strength and intelligence to scale my attack, cooldown rate and some more strength and intelligence, crit, and so on. You can go ahead and add more Insignias as I get more from playing the game. When it comes to circuits for the Cloudstrider, what you are looking for your time circuit, you can do a mix of either cooldown rate as the main stat or crit rate as the main stat. As far as substats goes, you're looking at more magical crit and crit damage, intelligence and spirit, as well as cooldown rate as substats. Even something like attack speed could be good, but those aforementioned 3 are going to be the main stats that you want to focus on when playing the Cloudstrider. Now we are taking a look at our Netherlight circuit. Our Netherlight circuit is a flat HP main stat, unchangeable, so it's always going to be a flat HP stat. The substats you're going to be looking for are the same as the time circuit: magical crit, crit damage, intelligence, spirit, and cooldown rate. Now as for your Radiant circuit, which is going to be flat attack, it's going to be the same as your Netherlight circuit. Essentially, it is flat attack all the time. You cannot change the main stat, so you're looking at these same substats for the Radiant circuit as well. Now, and last but not least, for your Stellar circuit, you definitely want to be going for skill damage as your main stat. The substats are going to be the same as the other circuits, but skill damage is definitely going to be your main stat to help with your skills doing more damage and overall helping your bow's rotation to overall do more damage. That is it for my Cloudstrider guide for Crystal of Atlan. I believe that this covers everything in depth for the Cloudstrider, from skills to rotations to gear to then attributes that you want to go ahead and use on the Cloudstrider. Let me know if this video helped you out in the comment section. As always, thank y'all for watching. I'll catch you on the next video, and peace.